The Nonprofits is made possible by volunteers and the generous support of listeners like you. If the promotion of positive atheist culture and separation of church and state are values you hold, please consider contributing by becoming an ACA member or visiting our product page at evolvefish.com under the Partner tab. Thank you.
Upstairs left us years ago. So there ain't no fate except the one you make, and there ain't no hell except the shit you take every day. So don't tell me life doesn't hurt and that you don't need the people cause you've got your church. You gotta take your head out of the sky because there ain't nothing there but the satellites.
And we are Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. Denis Loubet, Jeff D., Russell Glasser, and all nonprofits are hereby directed to cease and desist all defamation of God's character and reputation. God is a respected member of the heavenly community, and it has come to light that those named and sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational organization for the promotion of positive atheism and the separation of church and state, have engaged in defamatory statements regarding his reputation and character. Accordingly, we demand that you immediately, A, remove the ACA voicemail at 512-220-6561, B, take down their website at www.atheist-community.org. C, cease all broadcasts from the Austin Free Thought Library starting today on the 21st of June, 2017, and henceforth all broadcasts of the Nonprofits podcast each first and third Wednesday of each month from 7:30 to 9 Central Time. D, close down the chat room that can be found following the directions at www.nonprofitsradio.com. If you do not comply with this cease and desist demand, God is entitled to seek violent revenge and equitable relief for your defamation. In the event you fail to meet his demand, please be advised that God has asked us to communicate to you that he will pursue all available angelic remedies, including smiting, flooding, and an order for additional plagues.
All righty then.
All right. Well, we will take that under consideration.
He'll be hearing from our lawyers, I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. We're
Hello.
back. Everybody have a good couple of weeks?
Yeah.
It's been eventful.
Has it? List an event.
My
happened.
son has a learner's permit.
Oh, my gosh.
Uh-oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, my God, everybody get off the roads!
Yeah. Yeah, no accidents to speak of. Actually, the driving lessons are both terrifying and quite a nice bonding experience.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
I kind of discovered I could do portraits, so now I'm doing portraits of people. Yay.
And I put up the cover to my superhero role-playing game on various sites where people that follow that are at, and they like it. So, yay.
Good.
Okay, so what is this? Nonprofits, right?
For as long as we can, yes.
Yeah.
Let's start with news.
I mean, Dennis was talking all about lawyers beforehand. And
That's right.
Yes. Shall we go
big
with
jackass lawyer who is a longtime contributor, let's say, to this show. In fact, I remember back in the early 2000s when we were first getting our footing, there just seemed to be a lot of news about this character, Jay Sekulow.
Oh, boy. Oh, yeah.
So much so that when City of Heroes came out, I made a superhero character called Sekulow, who was a champion of secularism.
except how ironic, because this guy's not. Right?
Well, it was intentionally ironic. His backstory was that Jay Sekulow changed his mind and decided to fight for the right side instead.
I made a City of Villains character called Almighty. It was God. He has a big beard and a robe and stuff.
Yeah, I remember your main character as Captain Liberal, though.
One of my main characters was Captain Liberal. He had the rose-colored. He was like Captain America, but with rose-colored glasses on, and he was blonde with like a ponytail. And his and then there was his kid's sidekick, Lefty.
Yeah.
Just great names.
Oh, why are we talking about City of Heroes?
Well,
that is the saddest thing to talk about
I know.
in the universe for anyone who's
but
ever played that game.
We're reminiscing about the early 2000s.
That game was murdered
Yeah.
for no good reason.
Well, no good reason being not enough money to keep the servers running.
No,
it was
bull
making
hockey.
enough.
Yeah, bull hockey. And then there's so many other things they could have done.
Yeah, well, I mean,
It was just random
yes.
corporate nonsense.
Yeah.
So, if you'll recall back in the early 2000s when we were starting this show,
Yes.
a big thing, and I don't know, it almost seems quaint today, but a big thing that the Bush administration was pushing was like faith-based initiatives.
Yes.
Which were kind of shocking at the time, but then I think didn't really entirely go away during the Obama years.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, he didn't. Didn't actually kill him.
So, I mean, that's just a thing
De-emphasized
now.
him a bit. Yeah.
And we were all outraged about that all the time. And there was this guy named Jay Sekulow, that's S-E-K and ends with a W. And he ran this thing, as I recall, called the American Center for Law and Justice, which is the ACLJ, basically the evil doppelganger of the ACLU.
opposite of what it says, yes.
Yes, the organization that would fight for for mainstream religion's right to trample all over everybody else.
Right.
And that was their thing. Jay Sekulow's back in the news, folks. The new face of Trump's legal team is the Christian rights Pitbull, according to Bloomberg.com. Jay Sekulow has had a lively debut as a member of President Donald Trump's personal legal team. And again, I mean, this really hammers home the fact that personal beliefs and behavior aside, Trump really is and always has been sort of the religious rights guy. Anyway.
For some reason, yeah.
But I got to ask you, though, Russell, are we reading this just because of the dude involved, or is this story going to actually have something to do with religion?
It inherently has something to do with religion.
I mean, if you were reading something...
the dude involved,
Who's that prick that... Oh, my God. No, I can't remember any of their names. There's so many of them. The kind of weird Hindu-looking guy that was always trying to debate people, and he was a real ass. Anyway.
I can't remember his
Yeah,
name.
Creationist fella?
Yeah.
Or,
creationist
like...
guy.
Akhtar something
No.
Or
anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So there's these guys, and then you hear about them getting arrested for. This guy was like found guilty of some kind of political money malfeasance or something.
Oh. You
Dinesh D'Souza.
Yeah, that guy.
Name finally came to me. So if you were just reading a story about, Dinesh D'Souza is now opened a hot dog stand somewhere, I guess that would be worth reading because we despise this creep so much, but it's not really.
Yeah, but I mean,
atheism
Jay
is-
Sekulow is a guy whose main claim to fame was fighting for special rights for religious people.
I'm just asking, is this going to be about fighting for special rights for religion or just the latest antics of this guy?
The latest antics is that he's become part of Trump's personal legal team.
Well, who hasn't?
Okay.
I mean, Trump's lawyer's got a lawyer now.
Okay.
And the vice president has got a lawyer.
All right. Well,
so,
I'm going to continue.
they're all lawyering up. Yeah, sorry.
Anyway, he went on ABC's This Week talk show and refused to rule out lawyer talk the possibility that the president would fire the special counsel overseeing the criminal probe of the Trump campaign and Russia's interference in the 2016 election. And talked a lot about the Russia investigation. And then there's more backstory on Sekulow, who formerly served as the general counsel for the organization Jews for Jesus. In the late 80s, he became the leading Supreme Court advocate for the Christian right. Asked about Sekulow's qualifications, Mark Corallo, a spokesman for Trump's outside legal team, didn't directly answer the question. Jay is a member of the president's legal team in the fullest sense of the word, Corallo said. He is also authorized to speak on television or otherwise. Wow, that's a statement.
Okay, or otherwise.
Is he allowed to speak? He's so probably that includes radio. Is he allowed to speak?
I listened to
on
him.
like those little, those little recording devices they have in greeting cards sometimes. Is he allowed to speak on one of those? I'm just trying to figure out the extent of this, or otherwise.
Oh.
That's pretty broad.
Is the White House going to start putting out
Maybe he's allowed to speak.
little greeting cards that say things when you open them?
Maybe he's allowed to speak on college campuses. That would be a thing.
He'll have his voice
I'm sure
put in
anywhere.
He'll have his voice put in a fish that you can hang on a wall. Maybe.
Oh
one
yeah,
of those
yeah.
things.
The little, and then it plays music and he talks and it does a little dance.
Yeah.
Or maybe on one of those records that goes on a space probe and is going to fly to another star system.
Right. Oh, God. Please, no.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're right to say nothing in particular has happened yet, but this is a guy to keep your eye on, okay?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I am
I
going
wanna
to
know.
actually go
I
to
wanna
Google
know.
Alerts right now and
I want to
add
know if he used. I just
an
want to
alert
know if
on
he,
his
if
name.
So he's been on the news, right?
Uh-huh.
I think I've seen
For-
him there.
and
I think I saw him on a thing where they were talking about the right's use of the phrase "deep government." Has he talked about deep government?
I haven't noticed that
Because that's
lately.
that is apparently like a right wing boogeyman now.
What? Deep government?
Yeah, it's a thing that they believe exists, which is like a secret cabal of people in the government that are like trying to stop them.
Well, not anymore.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I mean,
They
now,
are the government
Now it's
now.
all Trump.
Yeah.
And Trump's
No.
Christian legal
There's
team.
an investigation going on at Trump, and that
Oh,
could
that's
only
right,
happen. That could only happen, apparently, if there was a
there's
secret cabal
Sure,
of people
yeah.
in the government besides Trump, right, that were making bad things happen.
That's the story. Yeah, and also America is not yet great again, so that's the excuse.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
the only valid explanation.
It's an utter conspiracy theory made up boogeyman.
Deep state is that?
deep state.
Yeah.
Deep state. Yeah.
It's on Wikipedia. Is this one
sounds
of
like-
those cases where?
Well, it sounds like beefsteak. But not. It's not apparently not. It's supposed
I
to be-
am
it's supposed to not be nice.
dying to look at the edit history of deep state in the United States on Wikipedia, but I got a show to do, so maybe
Right.
later.
Anyway, just warning people out there, if you hear that,
Yeah.
somebody's spinning a
So
conspiracy
if
theory
you
at
want to set a Google alert on Jay Sekulow, that's Sekulow. I think that is going to be sadly entertaining for a while. That's all.
All right. So, right. So we got some old business, I guess. Let's just get into this one. I'm sorry, Dennis.
That's all right.
It just directed at you.
Business.
People
Paul-
complaining about the flood, is that
Paul from Louisville's,
Louisville? Yes.
which he spelled
I apologize.
Louoeyvilles. Louisville. Writes.
That is a joke.
Yeah.
Our
He
listeners
literally-
can spell
he-
very
At
well.
apparently
literally-
my expense.
No, that's not a joke.
No.
He literally wrote that.
No.
He wrote
That is his joke. I mean, he's
Wait, just let him speak for himself. I'm going to read
right,
the letter
all right.
in which he says this
all
thing.
right.
I may be one of the few listeners who has a non-theist atheist comment. On episode 69, Denis Loubet.
That's just his name.
That's
He
me.
spelled
That's me. That's me actually mispronouncing
yeah.
Dennis's name because it figures into the gag. Had a feature on Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin. He spoke of Matt Bevin's calling for prayer for the violence in Kentucky's largest city, Louisville. Dennis pronounced Louisville incorrectly, though you're supposed to say it
Yeah,
the way he wrote it out, right? He wrote it
I'm
phonetically.
Louisville.
It's Louisville.
But no.
It is in fact
I
Louisville.
pronounced it wrong.
Although most of the Louisvilles in the United States are pronounced the way Dennis pronounced it, Kentucky's largest city was named for French King Louis the 16th. Therefore, it is pronounced Louisville, and that's where he actually spelled it in his letter. Making it clear that's a phonetic spelling.
Sure.
I work at the U.S. Postal Service here in Louisville, Kentucky, and have to remind workers here that other Louisvilles in the country are not pronounced the way Kentucky's largest city is pronounced.
Right.
Do you feel chastised yet, Dennis? Because I'm not.
Yes.
I'm not going to stop. I'm rolling right into the next letter on this subject
I'll go down to Manchaca and weep.
because we got to follow it up.
Or is that Manchac?
Nobody who doesn't live in Austin gets that.
That's right. I know.
So, had you in fact ever heard it pronounced Louisville?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But I didn't know that it was that particular city.
Yeah. Sure. But that's a perfectly fair, honest, and harmless, unintentional, deep slight on everyone who lives in that city.
Of course.
And you're very sad that you did this thing, right?
I am. I have no excuse.
Corey in Louisville, which he spelled Lououhvul, Louisville,
Wow.
says, I'm sure you guys follow baseball.
Nope.
Unless we're supposed to pronounce that baseball. And you know about the bats, specifically the Louisville Slugger.
Uh-huh.
That's us.
Aha.
Now he contradicts Paul. We have 5 official pronunciations of our town. And
5.
And Louisville is one of those. So you're off the hook.
Wow.
According to
Vindicated.
But Corey and Paul will now have to find each other and have a little fight to resolve this. But no one local ever pronounces it like that.
Uh-huh.
Hearing my city of Louisville called Louisville grates on the ears, slight nitpick. Well, I'm sorry, Corey, if you're going to... we have it straight from a resident of the city, namely you, that there are, in fact, 5 official pronunciations, and that's one of them. So back off. We didn't... I think Dennis is going to make an effort.
Every time we talk about Louisville, Kentucky, we'll include all different pronunciations.
Just do it all fine. So then none of them can complain. Or all of
That's
them
right.
can.
It's Louisville, a.k.a. Louisville, a.k.a.
Unless it's the rock and roll one, which is Louisville.
Louisville. Yeah.
All right, so that is the end of Corey's follow-up and his direct contradiction of what Paul said and a direct contradiction of what he himself said. So going on with Corey's letter. You know what? We'll pick up Corey's letter because that was just the bit on that subject.
Right.
Let's do a news.
Okay.
I don't want to hog all the time.
Mike Leporati this week tweeted with hashtag nonprofits news. Thank you, Mike. Some good news we always like to hear, which is that in the United States, belief in the creationist view of humans is at a new low.
Really? And how low is that low?
That's good to know.
38%. Which,
Okay.
if you were just hearing this for the first time, that a lot of Americans are creationists, you might find that depressing.
Yeah, but what's the creationist view of humans? What does that mean specifically? Is that the origin of humans?
Get to it. Gosh, you're always like I read the headline and you start asking a bunch of questions that will obviously be in the story.
Yeah, damn us atheists for always wanting to ask questions.
You know what?
But
atheists
we want
do?
our answers now.
Yeah, how come I don't already magically know this in my head? Christians already magically know everything in their heads, apparently.
Morpheus, I need to know how to fly a helicopter.
Take the tangerine pill.
All right, so the story highlights, since you're so impatient, 38% say God created man in his present form, which is the lowest in 35 years. And
Okay,
I
so
mean,
that specifically is the belief about humans that they're talking about.
right. So, I mean, if you weren't depressed before about how many do believe that, just bear in mind that the creationist view is
30%.
just basically the young Earth type creationist view that people were created fully formed and pretty much no human evolution whatsoever has happened.
Right.
But I mean, as I recall, it's been up to like 50%
Sure.
in the
so
past.
that is as crazy as it sounds. It's actually good news. All right, keep
What
it up.
about flat Earth creationists?
The same percentage. The same
There's
percentage.
middle-aged Earth creationists, and there's elderly Earth creationists.
Yep. Retired Americans, Earth creationists.
Infant Earth creationists.
Is that last Thursday-ism?
That's right.
Yeah.
Also, the same percentage, 38%, say humans evolved, but God guided the process. And if I got my math right, that's about 22% remaining, 24%. And, here's a shocker. Less educated Americans are more likely to believe in creationism.
Gosh, really?
Duh.
What?
All right.
All right. The percentage of U.S. adults who believe that God created humans in the present form at some time within the last 10,000 years has reached the new low. So, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So
and I'm looking at this graph.
other kinds of creationists. Okay.
I'm looking at this graph. The highest it's been in 1993, it was 47%.
All right.
But this graph looks really nice if you were looking at the bottom line, saying man developed, but God had no part in the process. That was 9% at the beginning of the graph, 1981. It stays flat all the way up, and then suddenly it starts spiking in the late 90s, which is the kind of thing I always like to mention because, hey, the internet.
Right.
Yeah.
Suddenly in the late 90s, it starts creeping up, and by 2017, it is up to 19% from 9%.
Oh, okay. Baby steps.
I mean, it's better. And I mean, this is America, land of the dumb.
Yes.
In some other countries have it better than we do.
Oh, yeah.
All righty. Well, cool. So, does the article happen to discuss what that can be attributed to?
It's a poll. It's Gallup. I mean,
No,
I don't think they do that level.
That's not what
type of analysis.
Right, but sometimes there is such discussion along with statistics like that.
Right. Well, this is straight from the Gallup.com site, and there are some more breakdowns.
So the answer is
No
no.
commentary?
This
Not
article
not
does
that
not.
I can see.
Do we have any speculations about why?
I think some of it could be attributed to backlash.
Unrelenting pressure. Yeah.
So
and
what's
backlash.
I just leaned over and looked at the little graph, and what I do not see is a spike around about late 2001 with September 11th, because I remember, I have been part of the movement since the early days, and I remember that was really the turning point. That are, what people have come to refer to as new atheists, right?
Yeah.
The people who will actively promote atheism instead of just not believing and staying quiet about it. That happened with September 11th. So I was wondering.
To an extent.
I was wondering if I started meeting with the ACA. My experience with the ACA, they founded before I even heard of them, but I started going there before 2001. So there was atheist stuff happening. American atheists had existed for decades already, but the point at which it started being in the news and becoming a thing, like a movement, was then. By my recollection, so I would have expected that to make a difference. What you do see, though, is there's like that jump in the very late 90s that you were talking about, pre-2001. And then it's been a slow incline ever since.
Is there a huge spike when the nonprofits exploded on the scene?
Well, as I said, that was like the early 2000s.
Oh, there we go.
So,
Well, yeah, the nonprofits didn't start.
yeah,
Oh,
so
the
there
early
was like
2000s,
a significant hop upwards, like somewhere between 1999 and 2002. So right in the middle there.
Yeah, I'm wondering
and
what on earth
then-
that could be attributed to.
I don't know.
Strange.
Well, I mean, but it must have. It looks like it would have peaked around 2001. So I
Yeah.
think your theory isn't necessarily applicable to this graph.
No, I know it's not. I said that it wasn't.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised that
Stays
it's not.
flat for a while. I mean, compared to it's super flat from 1981 to let's say 2000.
Super flat.
Yeah. And then it just sort of there's a little jump and then it kind of drifts upward.
Which describing a graph makes great radio.
Yeah, sure. I should
But you're doing,
use a
you are
slide
doing it,
whistle.
You are doing it as well. Yes, you should have a slide whistle. But you're doing it as well as could be expected.
Yeah.
All right. So, trying to remember what there was. I mean, I would have been one of those guys who decided.
Huh?
There was a voice in our ears. A second. I was one of those
sign.
guys who, in the late 90s, right, got all of a sudden interested in being more active about this. It's why I looked for the ACA in the first place.
Right.
But, See, Dennis, remember when you and I were like hanging out on Usenet
Yeah.
on alt atheism and stuff,
Yeah.
right? Those really, really early days. What was our motivation? What was it that ticked us off and made us?
I
want
was
to
there
start
pretty much honing
fighting?
arguments.
I
There
know,
was a
but,
lot of creationist
But why
stuff.
did we
Yeah, yeah.
care? Was it that
Why did
creationism
we
was
care?
That's when creationism was becoming a thing. Okay.
Might have been. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I don't think so because you can trace
Or
creationism
it could
back
be-
to the 60s and
Well, I know,
beyond.
but there are times when it becomes
Yeah, it ebbs and
more
flows a bit.
prevalent.
Perhaps it was traced back to the first time a person was wrong on the internet.
I mean, yeah, funny, but to me, I don't think you should underestimate the impact that the internet itself had on shaping the conversation because, like, discovering that there were news groups like late in college, as I did, and just realizing, wow, I really love to argue with people. I'm not in the high school debate team anymore. And all of a sudden, there's just this nonstop supply of people saying bullshit.
Right. And it's bubble bursting.
Yeah.
You know, it gets in through the filters and stuff.
All right, I'll stop flogging this particular
Yeah.
dead horse. I just
It's not dead.
I think it's important not to only go back and try to figure out what happened when you failed, and you're trying to find out how not to screw up again. It's also useful to go back and try to figure that out when it appears that something went right.
Yeah.
And try to
Absolutely.
figure
So
out
you
what
can
the
do
hell
it
was.
again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, the fact that this atheist or this man developed, but God had no part in the process trend has been moving up and is still trending up. I mean, that's a success.
All right. So let's go back to Corey's letter. He's done ragging on poor Dennis for for a pronunciation. And going back to the story that you were talking about, Dennis.
Yeah.
Corey says, the pastors and people who generally support the walking gangs of prayer patrols, because that's what the story was about,
we
right? The
talked
prayer
about prayer
patrols
patrols.
in Louisville.
Yeah.
Aren't from the area. This is an issue in the west end of town, which is predominantly poorer and minority and African American. The supporters are generally from the east end of town, generally white, more affluent, and the suburbs, and also home to the megachurch Southeast Christian Church, colloquially called Six Flags Over Jesus, and the home church of Governor Fuck Matt Bevin.
Oh, wow.
I think that's Corey's editorial.
Yeah,
comment.
yeah.
I don't think his middle
Very
name
nice.
really is Fuck Matt Bevin, but it might. His middle name might be Fuck Matt Bevin. I don't know. If it is, I would wonder what's the derivation of the middle name, Fuck Matt Bevin. When you have pastors who are actually in the area calling, praying for help bullshit, you know that this plan was nothing more than a badly planned photo op. In fact, the only reason this was
Right.
even open to the public was because it was held in a middle school in the area, and the Jefferson County public school system requires every municipal event held at its facilities must be open. Initially, this was supposed to just be a private gathering.
Whoa.
So that,
Interesting. A little
But-
background.
but
yeah.
but that would tell you, when you find out that this stuff is happening in private, it's almost scarier.
Uh-huh.
Right, because then your government officials are saying crazy religious stuff to people in secret.
Right.
And I
Out
don't
of
know about
the
you.
ears.
As annoying as I find this shit, I'd rather that it be said publicly so it can get a proper
Yeah,
response.
so all the constituents can know where the person stands. Right.
All right, thank you, Corey, and also thank you, Paul from Louisville's.
Louisville.
Dennis promises not to do it again, don't you,
I'll
Dennis?
try to avoid it in the future.
Just don't say it at all. There you go.
Paul from blank, the city of blank.
Paul from Louisville.
Is that one of the five, I wonder?
Probably not.
All right.
Louis.
All right.
All
We
right.
try, folks. We try. I'm sure there's
We do.
other things we've said wrong before. We're not perfect. We just try.
Yeah.
Russell.
Also coming from Twitter, my friend and distant coworker, actually, Dean Jones. He's in a European office. But anyway, that's irrelevant. Gave me some news from the UK where a politician was torn between his progressive party and his Christian faith, so he quit. This is from Vox.com. Wait, which one did he quit, I wonder?
He quit his party.
Yeah, figures. Tim Farron said the media wouldn't let him lead the progressive liberal Democrats
and
as
they
a
replaced him.
Bible-believing Christian.
He quit, and then they replaced him with a robot.
On Thursday, the
that
leader...
that was a callback to our previous episode. Get it?
Duh.
Jeez,
I get it.
guys.
Gone from my head, man.
Hardly even worth trying. Go ahead.
Sorry. On Thursday, the leader of the United Kingdom's fourth largest political party, Tim Farron of the center-left Liberal Democrat Party. And, I mean, I gotta say...
that's specific.
Yeah, I have no idea where that puts them on the American political spectrum. I mean, they're throwing out a bunch of words. It's center, left, liberal, Democrat, which all sound like lefty words here, but they're all
Yeah.
British. They take lifts instead of elevators and things.
Right,
So,
but where does that place Lord Buckethead? I don't...
yes. Anyway, he made headlines by resigning from his party's leadership in the aftermath of a fraught election cycle. And by the way, the UK election was very entertaining.
Oh, yeah.
I thought. Which resulted in the Liberal Democrats falling short of expectations and gaining just 4 seats in Parliament. I thought the expectation was that the Conservatives would just take over and dominate. I thought that was why they were trying to hold the election.
That was certainly the Conservatives' expectation. But there are a lot of different parties in Britain. It's not like here in the U.S. where there's just the two that are fighting back and forth, and then some hangers
right,
on.
because it said it's the 4th largest party, so I guess by shuffling around,
So
they were expected
it's all
to do
about
better.
putting together a coalition,
Yeah.
which sounds really great, and sometimes compared to shit that happens here, it seems like that would be a really good thing for us to do differently. But then you know, I mean, like they had this election there, the conservatives lost seats, and therefore, to try to hang on to more power, they made arrangements with even crazier writer winger guys. So it doesn't necessarily mean that everything gets averaged out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So Farron resigned as head of this party, and he stated as his reason his Christian faith. Farron, who is an evangelical Christian, said in a statement that he had found himself torn between living as a faithful Christian and serving as a political leader, and that he found the demand to be a political leader, especially of a progressive liberal party in 2017, to hold faithfully to the Bible's teachings has felt impossible for me. That was
Wow.
There
Then
were a lot of
maybe you're-
ellipses in this sentence.
Then, dude, that's a sign that the religion is wrong, not the. Jeez.
Yeah, well, I seem to, in 2015, he was scrutinized over his personal views on LGBTQ sexuality. And he said, I seem to be the subject of suspicion because of what I believe and who my faith is in which case we are kidding ourselves if we think we yet live in a tolerant liberal society.
Oh, for F's
get
sake! I mean, here's tolerance does not mean turning a blind eye to bigotry. Tolerance has never by implication, been about saying that evil attitudes, crappy, hate directed at segments of the population attitudes need to be treated with equal
Respect.
dignity and respect.
Yeah. No.
It's never fucking meant that, ever. Never. And if you're trying to say that it does, you're not defending tolerance, you're defending hateful bigotry.
Right.
Yeah. And we have a principle in the U.S. politics of not allowing a religious test for office, but that doesn't mean that people shouldn't be able to let people's terrible religious views influence whether they think that person knows what they're doing.
You know what that lack of a religious test means? It means if you're like, I'm some kind of Christian evangelical fundamentalist, blah de blah, right? I'm from that church, but I'm not a bigot. And I when I express my views on things, people can't find anything wrong with my views. That lack of religious test means I can't be thrown out just because I identify as a member of that group.
Ooh, this, you know what this reminds me of? You remember the story that you posted on Facebook last week about how the alt-right apparently has decided they're upset about the new Wolfenstein trailer?
Yeah. Was that actually true? I got some pushback on that. People saying
I don't know. That's
true.
a tough call to make, actually.
Well, what does this article say? You've got an article on it.
Well, I mean, I just Googled it because I was like, well, that was funny. It said the white nationalist alt-right is upset about Wolfenstein, the New Colossus, a game about fighting Nazis who control America in an alternate 1961. I don't suppose either of you played the Wolfenstein.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Last year, yeah. A couple years ago.
Well, I didn't
hell
play.
yeah.
I haven't played the recent Wolfenstein.
Oh, yeah, that's
The
right.
recent,
The very
no,
recent.
the recent one is surprisingly good. Although Jeff, you've got a decent
what I hear.
computer now, right?
Yeah. I got enough games though. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not in the
I mean,
market.
if you like shooters, it's one of those that's got like a good effort at a plot, like the Half-Life series. And
I don't necessarily want a plot in a shooter.
okay,
I don't mind some shooter, in my RPGs.
I thought it was pretty good. I
That's
mean,
different.
it wasn't deep science fiction or anything,
Right.
but it was good characterization of a guy living in an alternate universe where the Nazis won. Spoiler. Anyway, so now it's 1961, and I gather from the stories that I've read on this that the alt-right are pissed that Nazis are the acceptable target, like they always have been.
Right.
You know, they're the people you don't feel guilty about shooting, like zombies and
Nope.
and space aliens and demons in Doom.
That's right. Not a
But
bit.
like you said, it's hard to do. Like, even if this appeared directly on a right-wing site, a lot of times they'll just say, well, we were trolling. Haha, we got a
Right.
reaction out
Well,
of you.
sure, they'll say whatever the fuck they think they need to say to position themselves.
Right.
You know, speaking as a guy who has come out in favor of punching Nazis in real life, right? It's probably worth mentioning. I'm not in favor of shooting Nazis in real life just cause, right?
Yeah.
I think that rises to the level of
I mean, I
there
personally
needs
don't
to
punch
be,
people
there,
anyway.
There needs to be imminent. No, I'm in favor of punching them.
No, I'm
punching
saying
them on sight.
I'm-
but not killing them. Not killing them.
Yeah.
that requires a higher level of imminent threat.
Right.
The background level of threat of a Nazi, of a fascist, of an alt-right jackass, I think, is enough to justify non-fatal
Yeah.
pressure. You're talking to a guy who's a big fan of superheroes, right? We're all about punching bad guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to dissuade me from that.
So,
position.
I
but
mean-
shooting, no, that
Right.
is another line. So there is a line there. So I'll give
Right.
them that much. There is a difference between
yeah.
murdering people dead, but on the other hand, in these games, they pretty much do concoct that higher level of immediate threat, right? These Nazis
yeah.
that you're shooting are guys who are going to shoot you dead if you don't defend yourself.
If you don't shoot
So
them dead first.
It's always pretty much justified
So I brought this up.
by the designers to make it okay.
I brought this up because we were talking about basically people talking about tolerance because, you know, if I'm not free to express my
Right.
my distaste for the LGBTQ movement and also head up a major liberal party in the United Kingdom, then I have no rights.
Right. You cannot hide behind the idea that there isn't a religious test, right? When you express views you have which are in line with your religion. What you can
Yeah.
do if you have a valid complaint if someone says you can't serve because you're a Mormon or a Baptist or whatever, right? That is a violation of that principle. But not you can't serve because you're a racist scumbag. Racist, even if your racist scumbaggery comes from your religion, that does not protect you. It's your membership in the religion that you can't be kicked out just for that. Then beyond that, if you're from a religion that encourages all of its people to be racist scumbags, what they're doing is generating a bunch of racist scumbags who can then be validly opposed on that basis. All right, and that's between you and your
Right.
religion. Then you should maybe consider turning around and telling your religion, "Hey, stop encouraging us all to be racist scumbags. It's getting in the way of people voting for me."
Yeah.
Yep. If in fact that gets in the way.
But it's obviously getting in the way when people complain
Well, they
and try to
complain about
hide
it. Sure,
behind
sure.
the idea of there not being a religious test.
Yeah.
Which I know it's not entirely relevant to this article because we were talking
Yeah.
about a British guy, and I don't know what the situation
Yeah,
is.
well,
over
I mean,
there.
bringing it back to the British guy. I mean,
Well,
so
they don't have
so
a
the
religious
guy-
test either, clearly, right? Do
No,
they?
I mean, he resigned.
imagine that
He
they
just
do.
didn't
Right.
like the level of scrutiny and didn't think he was doing okay.
I believe that LGBT people are subhuman and shouldn't be accorded the same rights
don't
as everyone
actually
else.
know
And
if he said
and that.
You're exaggerating for effect.
I mean, yes. And then they wouldn't let me play, and I'm gonna go home. Yeah, fuck you.
Yeah, I mean, reading what he actually said, it's incredibly mild by like American
US
right
standards.
standards.
Sure. Of course.
But I mean, I think Dean's one comment in passing this story along was that he said, good, that's what people should do. If there's a conflict between their religion and their politics, they should have to pick a side. They should get out if they are not. If they don't feel like they can represent both fairly.
All righty. Well, interesting. And who knows? I mean, in the U.S., there may be tons of people not getting into politics or switching their support from one party to another because of religious views. I'm sure it happens all the time.
Probably happens to atheists a lot.
Yeah. Sean says, listening to podcast 1609, I was surprised that you didn't bring up. He's talking about the bit we did on the news story about the robot priest.
Right? Oh yeah,
right.
I was surprised.
That's right. We talked about the electronic
and that's the reference.
monk.
That's the callback I did.
I didn't catch it. Sorry.
Got it.
I was surprised that you didn't bring up Buddhist prayer wheels in the discussion of the robot priest. Tibetan Buddhists have automated the process of blessings/prayers for more than 1,000 years.
That's right.
Well, leave it to the people in the East to be ahead of us in technology.
That's right.
According to Wikipedia, for whatever that's worth, according to the Tibetan Buddhist tradition based on the lineage texts regarding prayer wheels, spinning such a wheel will have much the same meritorious effect as orally reciting the prayers. And I absolutely agree.
That is true, yeah.
I agree.
Stick a motor on that sucker
or
and
say
go.
it out loud will have exactly the same meritorious effect. Of course it will.
You could, write a randomizer program and have it just print your prayers to the screen and not take part in the process, and that would have the same effect.
It's the first thing they teach you in BASIC is how to do a Hello World
That's
program.
right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, random numbers are a little more advanced.
It bless you. Yeah, I know that they're a little more advanced, so that's not the first thing they teach you.
Right.
So it could be a bless you world,
right?
Thing.
And then at the end of that thing, you have the line go to line 1, boom, and there you go. It just keeps
hello
world,
it says bless you world forever.
Yeah.
You know what I also had a problem with when they teach you how to do a Hello World program, right?
Yeah.
It just says Hello World.
Right.
As soon as it fills up the entire screen,
You can't tell it's moving.
you can't tell it's doing anything anymore. I thought, why did it stop? Okay. So, robot priests.
Yeah.
Right.
Compute.
Well, the prayer wheels would be mechanical priests. Yeah.
Right. That's true. That is the difference, is that in one case there's some guy turning a crank.
Right.
Yeah.
Does not compute.
Thank you, robot.
I'm pretty sure that there are probably dozens of apps that if you want, you download the app and you tap a thing and it'll spit out some pious words you can say picked at random to make you feel better.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm sure.
I could write one of those easy, but yeah. But I'm not going to.
What is that little tabletop thing that you talk at and it'll do stuff on the do stuff for you?
Like, I don't know, Furbies or something?
No. The never mind. We're past the
Amazon
moment.
Echo.
That's it.
Okay. I was
Echo,
way
can I have
off.
an amen? Amen. Thank you.
Yep.
Um,
Do you guys want to run with the previous theme and get into something that will cause more arguments about the proper limitations of Christianity
Sure.
or religion in government.
Yes,
'Cause
absolutely.
when I posted a thread on our Facebook group asking for more news this morning, the first thing I saw was Stephen Mandela passing along a post from Hemant Mehta, the friendly atheist, which I think is going to take a little unpacking, and I don't think I'm with Hemant.
Significantly less friendly since he was bitten by that werewolf.
Ah.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah. I just made that up. That's not a thing.
Yeah, so Hemant's title is Bernie Sanders was wrong to challenge a Christian nominee's theology.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen this story circulating around, and I have to
Yeah.
admit, I haven't read it at all. So what was this all about?
Yeah, so there's a variety of links here. I mean, this is a blog post, so it's not a great primary source. But basically, in early 2016, Wheaton College, which is an evangelical school, was in the midst of a national controversy because one of their professors, Laricia Hawkins, had worn a hijab in solidarity with oppressed Muslim women and noted in a Facebook post that Christians and Muslims worship the same God, even if you had to accept the divinity of Christ to be saved. So then there's a few different trails to follow.
There's a problem there.
Yeah.
Some people would really argue that.
The Wheaton administrators were offended and suspended Hawkins and began the process of firing her. And she was like, "You can't fire me, I quit." And then this guy wrote in a conservative rag, Russ Vaught said Wheaton was right to fire her, saying he blasted Hawkins for creating confusion over what it means to be in relationship with or now in a relationship with or know the one true God, and said Muslims do not simply have a deficient theology, they do not know God because they have rejected Jesus Christ, his son, and they stand condemned.
So, right. Oh, that prick.
It's one group.
They're condemned prick, okay?
It's one group saying that their bullshit is better than the bullshit of another group.
Yeah.
We haven't nearly got to Bernie Sanders in this chain yet.
Right.
I'm starting to regret this. Okay, so Vaught, the guy who wrote this article, is now Donald Trump's nominee to become deputy director of the White House's Office of Management and Budget.
Yeah.
So kind of coming full circle to Trump stuff like at the beginning. Yesterday afternoon at his hearing in front of the Senate Budget Committee, Senator Bernie Sanders took Vaught to task for those writings. And so the questions he said, "Do you believe that statement is Islamophobic?" And Vaught said, "Absolutely not, Senator. I'm a Christian, and I believe in a Christian set of principles based on my faith." And then he said, Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, I can totally tell that you're doing a Bernie Sanders voice, and it's pretty good. Go ahead.
"Again, I apologize. Forgive me. We just don't have a lot of time. Do you believe that people in the Muslim religion stand condemned? Is that your view?" He says, "Again, Senator, I am a Christian, and I wrote that piece." And he just kind of keeps asking the same question over and over again after getting a yes answer, which is, and then he asks, "Do you think that's respectful of other religions?" And he just says, I'm a Christian, and I wrote the post, and that's what I think.
Right. Right, and I think that's totally fair game to go after that guy on that basis. Yeah. And he's totally trying to spin the, it's from my religion card, therefore you can't say anything about it because that would be a religious test. It's not a fucking religious test. You can be in whatever religion you want. But then, when we ask you about your attitudes, if your attitudes fucking suck, you can be, opposed on the basis that you have attitudes that suck.
Yeah. Now, again, this is all framed in and Bernie Sanders' final comment is worth reading first. "This nominee is really not someone who is what this country is supposed to be about.
Yeah.
And I will vote no."
Yeah, right. That's perfectly reasonable.
I think so, too.
That is not a religious test.
Now,
that is not a religious test. The religious test is, did you say you were a member of the Southern Baptist Church?
Then you're automatically
then
disqualified.
Then I think you shouldn't be able to serve. Right? That is a religious test. And to cave in to this guy's attempt to equate his bigotry with his religion, right, as a cover, so that he can't be opposed, right? That is giving these guys way too much ammo.
Oh yeah,
right. And that's what
that's what
this
Hammett
framing
Meta
post
says.
is.
Yeah,
he says,
Hammett is mistaken then.
He says, "Let me say what Vaught refused to admit. Of course, he thinks everyone who doesn't share his views are going to hell. Of course, Muslims are condemned. So are all other non-Christians. That's what his article was saying, and that's what he still believes." The question Sanders should have asked is whether Vaught's beliefs about non-Christian people would ever influence his treatment of them under the law. Now, I don't.
No.
Excuse me.
No, I don't.
It's pretty fucking obvious.
You don't even need to ask that question. He has expressed that view, and that we have long understood, all us atheist types, right?
Yeah.
That beliefs lead to consequences.
Right. Sanders is a
this
liberal
crap-
Jew and says he's not an atheist.
And this crap about trying to shove those beliefs under the umbrella of my religion, therefore you can't say anything about them, is all about shielding them from criticism until they get in office, where they then insist, well, you elected me and you knew that this was my religion and it would be a violation of my religious rights to tell me I can't do anything now that I'm here that, is in line with my religious views. No, we're going to keep you out because of your views.
Yeah.
Right.
The fact is, this is a vote with a lot of people. Bernie Sanders decided he was going to vote against this guy. He stated what the reasons were for voting against the guy.
Yeah.
They touched on his religion. That's
touched on
not a
his
religious
religion.
test for office.
They
You
touched
can
his
vote
religion.
somebody down for whatever
Right.
damn reason
They
you want to.
touched on his religion only because the guy in question tried to shove that view under the umbrella of his religion.
Right.
Not fair. Now, it may be true, right? But, there are other people who are not Christians who think that Muslims are horrible scumbags. And if that view was identified, those people would rightly attract criticism. There's nothing magical about religion that lets you be a fucking jackass.
Right. Speaking of fucking
under our
jackasses,
system of government.
the icing on the cake is like another Republican senator scolding Bernie Sanders, saying, "I hope that we are not questioning the faith of others and how they interpret their faith to themselves."
No,
We're
we're questioning that guy
questioning it.
being a
Okay.
jackass.
This all precipitated from the fact that this guy was not just questioning the faith of others, but was gleefully
That's a damn good-
reasserting that they deserve to be
Yeah.
tortured forever.
That's
right?
a damn good point.
Like you.
Well, they
you
deserve to be
can't-
tortured forever, but I will stand up for his right to serve in the government.
Yeah.
I guess is the attitude we're being expected to believe.
But they weren't standing up for anybody's right
Yeah.
to do anything. In fact, they agreed with Wheaton firing this teacher for stating her views, which, by the way, I don't know. I was going to say they have every right to do. I think they do. They're a private Christian
I'm
organization.
glad you came back to this because there's a whole other conversation there that I think is
Sure.
worth having. Are we done with the Bernie Sanders?
Yeah, we can
and
be
this
done.
guy thing?
Hammond's wrong on this one.
I think he's wrong. I think we have to be able to comment on people's actual stated
Beliefs.
specific views, not
right.
well,
Views.
Beliefs is a tricky word to use because it makes it sound then like you're talking about their identification as a member of a religion, right? I'm talking about this is a person, they have a view, it's worth pointing at
Yeah.
and criticizing if, in fact, it is not fucking American. Right?
Right.
If it is not in keeping with the principles, the best principles of our nation, that we don't go around pointing fingers at other people and saying that they're horrible because of their religion.
Right.
No, we totally can go around pointing fingers at people because they're assholes.
Right.
Right? I mean, on specific issues.
Right.
All right. So
and
anyway,
and
so-
of course,
so this-
as atheists, like, none of the religious people say that their opinions come from God, and they just have to follow what they believe.
Right.
But everybody gets to choose to identify with a particular religion, and
Yeah.
if you still are a right-wing evangelical Christian, knowing that all this nonsense
There were-
is packaged up with it.
There are tons of people in this world identifying with religions that they totally don't agree with for cover,
Yeah.
right? So bringing this back to atheism, right?
Yeah.
If an atheist runs for office, you cannot say you can't serve because you're an atheist. You could say you can't serve because you kill and eat babies.
Yeah.
If that was a thing.
If that was a
If that
thing.
was an actual thing, right? That's the difference. Okay. So this
you can also
so this,
say I won't vote for him.
so this issue, yeah. So this. Oh, sure. You can say you're not going to vote for somebody for any reason you like, including their religion, but the law can't say that you're not allowed to serve.
Right.
So the underlying story was this issue where the woman wore the hijab and then got
Yeah.
fired, right, from Wheaton College.
Yeah.
Right.
And is Wheaton College a Christian college?
Yes.
And do they make you sign a thing that says we can fire you if you do things that we don't like religiously?
I don't know. I bet they do, but
I bet they do.
I'll let you know when I can find it.
Okay. And do we? So what I'm trying to get at is,
Statement of Faith and Educational Purposes,
Yep.
originally written in 1924.
and they make their instructors sign this fucking thing.
Probably. We
All right.
believe that Jesus Christ, blah, 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 blah.
So
blah,
let's assume they made this person sign that thing. Personally, I don't think you should go to a school where they make the instructors sign anything like that. But what are you going to do? People are idiots and they don't care. So, my attitude for a long time has been, hey, if you join a organization, a club, right, like including
Right.
a religion that has rules about, what they can do to you within the club, and you signed up for them, then if you violate those rules, you volunteered to be held under their rules, and they to a certain extent, you got what you asked for. But there's a further question, which is becoming has been a big deal now in the United States for a long time, which is if you're an employee of an organization, you don't actually believe those things, but they make you sign an agreement or hold you to their rules based on their beliefs that are bullshit, right? Bullshit rules on beliefs that you don't hold, then it's not right for the organization to try to hold you to those behaviors just because you're an employee. Because if you're not a member of the religion, right?
Yeah.
If you're working at Hobby Lobby and you're not a Christian, and they pull some shit that's because this is the rules of how we demand that our employees be. I don't know. I haven't got a good example off the top of my head, but right, that's not cool, in my opinion.
And one of the problems with it is that it basically sets the organization in a position of demanding that they never be criticized for anything. And it's like an open-ended demand.
Yeah.
So if they
Right.
start doing something like blatantly illegal or unethical, fostering that kind of culture in advance, saying that, you have to agree to our principles, puts him in a position later of saying, well, you wouldn't want to rat us out to the attorney general, would you? Because, that would be, violating our principles or something like that.
And of course, this line that I've just drawn, right, where I think, as stupid as it is, if you've joined an organization, a club, like a religion, and they have religious rules, right? And they can kick you out if you don't follow their religious rules. Okay, fine, that's the rules of the club.
Yeah.
And, honestly, if you violate their rules and they kick you out and you're not happy about it, you're better off, in my opinion. But employees, no, I don't think that's cool at all for a business to be imposing religious views on its employees. Conservatives totally love the idea that businesses should be able to impose that on employees, which is that. There's the line right there.
As long as it's conservative religious views.
But an even more extreme thing, right, is that if you're not an employee or anything and you don't agree with their religious views and they want to hold you to their standards, that is absolutely frickin' out of bounds. Right?
Yeah.
Of course.
And what do conservatives think about that?
They love it. Yep. Religious freedom.
Yeah. I mean, this
To discriminate.
push to ground federal laws or state laws in the particular Christian religion is exactly a violation of that thing. Just like this dude was saying, those are Muslims and so they're condemned. I don't know what that means. In real life, what does that even mean? I mean, what is he saying that he's going to do about it other than to say, I don't like them? Which is creepy enough. I mean, because that's just bigotry. I don't like
defines his opinion.
I don't like
of them.
this group. That's pretty much the definition of bigotry. Even if he doesn't mean that that makes it okay for us to round him up or something, right? Even if he doesn't mean anything like that. It's just sheer unadulterated bigotry. Okay. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that, I guess. I've sort of babbled. Is that the end of our story about Bernie Sanders and the guy? Yeah.
Once upon a time.
Okay.
What do we got?
I guess we'll do this one. Salty Old Bastard writes. That's the...
Yeah.
There was another name in his email, but he signed Salty Old Bastard, so therefore he gets a funny voice. And boy, I really want to do Rick from Rick and Morty. Right? Because if there was ever a salty old bastard, but I'm gonna go with more of an old sea captain.
Okay.
You forgot one other possible reason for why you didn't have much news to read last week.
Oh, this isn't me.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's aiming at Russ. I apparently got entirely off the hook for complaining about not enough listener mail.
Yep.
Right? I got away scot-free. You guys, Russell?
And that is that some of us didn't use the nonprofits hashtag, but you obviously did use the nonprofits hashtag, but you obviously didn't find our news worthy of a mention.
Oh.
You wanna respond
Gee,
to that?
Rick, not every news...
Oh, no.
Morty, you forgot the one other reason why you didn't have as much news to read last week,
Not
Morty.
every news story you submit is actually good.
Okay, we're doing Rick and
sorry.
we are doing Rick and Morty.
I have guidelines for
You may be
stories you
completely
can submit on our blog.
justified in not using what I tagged, but you need to add to your reasons. None of our listeners sent us anything that was worth a crap.
Maybe. I don't know.
Morty.
What did you send? I don't even know.
Rick and Morty, 100 years, Rick and Morty.
Foreverandever.com.
Didn't use my email.com.
People
Morty,
who don't watch this show are so lost right now.
I know.
People who have
But
not
you'll
watched
thank
Rick and
us
Morty
later
need to watch Rick and
After
Morty.
you watched it.
You see, I don't mind being labeled incompetent, but I don't want to be labeled apathetic. There, Morty. Now that the admin crap is done with, maybe you'd like to expand on this. A few months back, I sent Matt an email quoting a Baptist preacher I've been emailing with. The
Now
preacher
he's
says
complaining about Matt, who hasn't even been on this show in years.
I know.
Well,
That's a damn good point.
Occasionally.
We don't really handle business for the other show. Should
who
I just
gives a
stop now?
shit? I don't know.
I think at this point, a dimensional rift opens up, and we find out this is not the real Rick, and so aliens come boiling through, and they vaporize him.
Right.
And the real Rick is somewhere like laughing at this guy. So,
that's why you shouldn't. That's why you shouldn't bring up the Atheist Experience show on the nonprofits.
Okay. Yeah. Send them your emails about their show. They have a fine show.
Oh
They can
no, are
respond
we
to
going
them.
back to the Cronenberg
They're on
universe
Dan-
now?
email. Okay, well that was fun.
All right. Well, and now that we've managed to fill up that much time,
Is it time for a thing?
it's a little late actually, but
better go for
never too late sometimes, but not today. It's time for
Fine, go ahead and do your segment.
shit. Internet Apologists Saaaaayyyy. Stealing some of my echo, man. Not cool.
Okay, Russell. What did the Internet Apologists say?
This
to
was
the
actually.
nonprofits?
Can you remind me who to attribute this one to, please?
I don't know.
You you gave it to me on email.
Yeah?
So a couple of weeks or 2 weeks ago when we did our last show, we somebody mentioned something called Jesus,
that
bro.
made this segment? Okay, great.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we got a letter from a listener that we had talked about.
Who's the listener?
Atheist movies. Jasper.
Thank you, Jasper.
We brought up Christian, atheist-ish movies, and we talked about some of them, and somebody mentioned Jesus, bro.
Jesus, bro.
I think
Yeah.
that was in a letter. I don't know
Yes.
who wrote the original letter. I don't keep last episode's notes.
Okay,
around.
well,
But,
anyway, I haven't read a good Christian movie review in a long time, and those are always fun. They've got so I used to read a Christian movie review website when the internet was young in the late 90s. And I don't think this is the same Christian movie review site, but damned if they don't use the exact same format, which is they break it down into a bunch of things that make them angry and then rate them on a scale of 1 to 5 for each of those things.
Right.
Let me see. So if I can hover over their cute little meter, we got S for sex, L for language, V for violence, D for drugs. This does not add up to any acronym. unless-
Everybody knows V is for vendetta.
Yeah.
Sure it does. It's solved no. Solved no.
Yes, nudity and other.
And so what then
Which is
there's a line.
also
There's
the
like an
little-
acceptability line, which is
Yeah.
I was actually surprised. I think
If you're
that's
at
more
2
or less tolerant of way more tolerant than I would expect
Sure.
about some things. So they only violated the line on 4 out of 6 things.
Yeah, so 2, they're just barely okay.
Yeah.
And then there's other. So
It was violence
You
and
know,
nudity. There's
babe,
not enough violence and nudity to really tick them
But
off.
all sins are
Yeah.
equal.
I know.
this
Isn't
is
that
the same
strange?
little alphabet soup
weird.
of letters that you see at the beginning of Game of Thrones every week, and then you're like,
That's
oh,
right.
there's not enough nudity in this one.
But since as we know in Christianity, all in fundamentalist Christianity, all sins are equally bad. All these bars should be at the top.
Yeah.
They're all at either all at the
They're
bottom,
all worthy of infinite
or
punishment.
they're all at the top.
Right.
I guess an individual line could be at the very bottom, right?
Yeah.
Just either
Where
be
it
a full
didn't.
line or none at
Or
all.
none at all. Right.
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 But you'd be surprised what these guys would consider some nudity. Go ahead. Go ahead, Russell.
Ankles. No. So this is about the movie Jesus, Bro, which is a parody, and they know it and they don't like it.
Wow, really?
The site, if you want to follow along, is dove.org. Dove, the bird of peace, you know. Let's see. Synopsis. In this outrageous comedy, that should go on the box.
Yeah, really.
I think.
That should be on the poster.
Yeah, it's a selling point.
An internet atheist has a near-death experience and must return to Earth to deliver a new message to his volatile audience.
So is there such a thing as like, what's the opposite of outrageous? Pedestrian?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you could say a pedestrian comedy, and that would be.
Oh, yeah.
That would be an
I
insult.
can totally see
Technically
Roger
a-
Ebert saying, boy,
Yeah.
this was a really pedestrian
All
comedy.
right, all right, go ahead.
So an atheist
Comes back.
You know, it's your basic God's not dead type formula. You got the crusty old atheist.
Well, except that if it's an atheist coming back from the dead, isn't this atheist's not
it
dead?
says near-death experience.
Oh.
But it
Atheist's
says he
not
must
near
return to Earth,
death
implying
anymore.
that he left. Okay,
Right.
Well, near
have they-
death is is often described, you know, in terms of you're there, like going down the tunnel and
Right.
meeting your departed ancestors,
Right,
and
and
shit,
then there's a
right? and then
record
you
scratch.
come back. Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, so Jesus Bro, I may skip around in this review, especially since I don't want to miss the details of what makes each of those topics rated poorly. Jesus Bro is a satire, a spoof, and that word is even used in the film. However, it is a spoof about the Christian faith, and regrettably, many people would find it offensive and a scathing mocking of Christian believers. No doubt some Christians over the years have not always acted in a way that was kind or considerate. Maybe.
Gee, really?
This guy's getting really defensive
that's
before he even said what it's
Yeah.
But
know,
but that
what
is.
happens.
But I have to say that's a surprising admission from a site that makes it its business to review movies from a bigoted Christian perspective, and so.
But the thing is, I kind of appreciate these sites because, I mean, they really dive in and go into like great detail about
Right.
the offensiveness. I mean,
Sure.
you know, they're not hiding from it, so I can appreciate that.
All right, go ahead.
Maybe they even seemed to lack a bit of logic or common sense at times. Still, I have known Christians who have sacrificed to help pay somebody's electric bill, buy them food, or just be there to listen to them when
Yeah,
life had
some-
given them a big blow of disappointment.
Right, it's the not all Christians argument. Okay.
Hashtag not all Christians.
Okay.
Oh,
so,
next line. Certainly not all Christians. You called it.
Okay. Yeah.
Are strange or unintelligent people. In fact, my response to this film is that if Christ and his church is still the subject of films, books, and literature some 2,000 years after the founding of Christianity, then Jesus must
Oh,
be pretty
God.
special to elicit all this attention.
Then that's the disagreeing with us proves that we're right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you know what else they kept making movies about after that much time? Like Beowulf still getting movies.
Yeah.
King Arthur.
The Nazis.
Well, that's not quite as long.
Ancient
but,
Egypt.
the 300, you know,
Yeah.
ancient Sparta culture. Does that mean
sure.
that they're right? I don't know.
Well, what did he say? It means he said
It
specifically
means
about Christianity.
He must be pretty special to get
must
this
be pretty
much
special.
Must
attention.
be pretty special.
I will agree that Christianity is pretty special.
Pretty special.
Okay, go ahead.
So the movie features comments about having sex with monkeys, with Jesus being represented as Santa Claus. In fact, he's called Santa Christ in the film. Yet he is called a bastard. The S has been turned into an asterisk to protect your tender sensibilities.
Uh-huh.
By one of the characters, Jesus is called a bastard.
Uh-huh.
By one of the characters.
Accurate.
Well, yeah.
Also, Rick is speaking on his internet program and mentioning how Jesus couldn't even take a good flogging. Oh, so this is early in the movie before he reforms.
Uh-huh.
Then he mentions a senator that pays
these guys-
to get flogged at the leather club.
I'm curious.
Is this our show? Is he?
Wow,
I'm
yeah.
curious, though, whether these guys will review Christian movies where they have an atheist, saying bad things, and then criticize the movie because there's an atheist character in it saying bad things. That is exactly what's happening early in this movie,
Right.
where the atheist is
Yeah.
anti-religion and says bad things.
This is a really
It's not
meta
fair.
thing.
It's not fair for them to point out those things because that's setting up the atheist character who you're supposed to not like if you're a Christian.
Sure, but also the movie as a whole is a satire, so maybe
Yeah.
it's sort of like they're setting him up to reverse, but then they make him say stuff they actually think in the beginning.
So
This is
those things
getting
are
too
said but
twisty for me.
played for laughs. But then you
Yeah.
should say
So I'm not going to read the
it's
whole
all right to have an
synopsis.
atheist
Right,
say
no.
these things because you have to know how bad the atheist is, but they're playing it for laughs.
Let's go straight to the categories. In sex,
I'll take sex for 100, Russell.
please state your response in the form of a question. It's mentioned that this senator paid for a flogging at the leather club. I'll take who is Jeff Sessions. In the movie, also, a man admits to once cheating on his girlfriend. A man says he had sex with monkeys, and the word humping is used. A mocking joke about two people living in separate states before they get married, so they won't have sex. A woman says he cheated on her husband, and a comment about one-night stands. So there's
This is all dialogue.
This is not a spoiler-free review
Yeah.
because they're basically finding
telling
anything
you all the jokes.
anything
Yeah.
that was
Sounds like a bad
intended to
movie.
be funny, whether it was funny or not, I guess would require watching the film. But
Now, having read all this, and I scrolled back up to look at the score. The sex meter is at 4 out of 5, which seems like they thought it was a pretty sexy, even though, as far as I can tell, he only talks about
Yeah,
weird
it's all
sex
dialogue.
things. Like there is no actual sex.
well, that would be a 5.
Yeah,
I guess.
Penetration.
Yeah.
right.
Money shot, the whole thing. Yeah, it's like
But
Yeah,
that
and it
should
goes
be a
from
giveaway,
there
though. That
to-
it
from
should be a
the
giveaway,
word humping
Russell.
is used.
It should be a
Yes.
giveaway that that nudity does not cross that line, but sex does. So this is dry humping, I guess.
Yeah.
it's the equivalent.
In language, which is a separate category.
Everybody knows in the Bible it quite clearly forbids dry humping.
Yeah.
So it says G/OMG, which is, I guess, people say God or oh my God 7 times in the movie, which for a satire of Christian movies, that
7
seems
times?
really tame.
Gee.
D2, I guess, damn.
Damn,
he
yeah, be
doesn't
damn.
actually want
Wow.
to print all the naughty words in the movie. Although he didn't have a problem mentioning sex with monkeys.
As long as there's not a specific word for it, that then he can't say,
Right.
but he can describe it.
Yeah, the H word 4 times, but as a place separately 7 times, and hellbound 1 time, frickin' 2 times, which I can't tell if he's actually offended that they said frickin' or if he just won't post.
I think he's
Fucking.
disappointed that it was only said 2 times.
Yeah. But I mean, did they use the actual F word, or is he dinging them for saying
God,
frickin'?
I know.
Who
you can't
knows?
tell.
That is a good
I don't know.
question.
Frickin'.
Why does he just say F? He said
Yeah.
F-ing.
Everybody knows what F is,
Yeah.
don't they? Violence. A man is assaulted off screen. Blood is seen on a bandage. Wow. What did this guy think of
Holy-
Passion of the Christ?
Hated it.
A man accidentally shoots himself in the foot, although blood is not seen on him. Yeah, a man says when his wife died in a car accident, he needed to kill something. So again, there's no actual violence, just people mentioning
Talking,
violence
yeah.
a lot. But this one fell below the line. It's
Yeah.
at a 2 out of
Okay.
5.
Yeah.
All right, which one?
But then sex should also fall below the line if it's only people talking about it.
well,
You would think.
apparently
That's
talking
why I
about
think there must
sex
have
was
been
worse.
dry humping, because if there's not some sort of
Well, they're going by the
of
thing-
motions going on, then
If you lust in your heart, you're
Or
guilty
is it-
of doing the actual deed.
yeah,
So
but
they
you're,
say
but
if you talk
but if
about
you're
it, you're
think-
guilty of doing the
But
actual
then
deed.
violence should be rated equally high
You
because
would
they
think
talk
so.
about violence. In
The
fact,
thing is,
some
he's talking
violence
about
occurs
sex,
on
so
screen.
He should be.
But Christians, sex
Oh,
is
yeah.
way worse than violence.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And then under other, which was let's see, nudity, which also only went to 2 out of 4. There's cleavage, and man's shoulders and leg is seen in bathtub. And
That is the
man
one
in
that
shorts.
really gets me.
Man in shorts.
It counts as nudity to these people.
Wow.
It scores on the
I mean,
nudity scale.
Only to 2 out of 4, but he thought it was worth mentioning.
Yeah.
I have to assume in his world everybody's dressed from
Mormon
toe
underwear,
to
man.
toe to neck, and they have a bow tie, right? It's like, wow.
Yeah. And then under other, he has a huge list of grievances. A man dressed up
Other.
like Jesus takes a toy away from a child and breaks it. A man on TV says there is no God. A man says Jesus was a guy who couldn't take a good flogging.
I mentioned that one already.
Yeah. It said a woman married a man the next day after breaking up with a character, and she already had 19 kids. A kind of unusual comment about Kirk Cameron is made.
Oh God! Now I want to know.
Yeah.
Worth the price of admission. Unusual comments about Kirk Cameron. I think they better add
That needs to be
a
on the
whole-
poster too. That's
Yeah, they
good.
need to have a whole other category for unusual comments about Kirk Cameron.
A toaster says holy toast on it, which. What?
Okay.
Father, Son, and Holy Toast.
And
Sure,
a woman
why
portrayed.
not?
A woman says it doesn't matter what religion you follow or what God you worship, but it matters what kind of person you are on earth before you can go to heaven. Thereby stating man needs no savior but can save himself.
Wow. And we can't have that.
That hit the 4 on the scale.
Damn.
All right.
Yeah, of
All right.
course.
So,
Thank you, Jasper.
Wow.
That
Dennis, we got 4 minutes left. Do you have a question?
Yeah,
or do you
kind
wanna,
of.
or do you want to do it next episode?
Oh, we
You
can
got
do
more
it
than
here.
4 minutes.
I'm not
Okay.
sure how long this will take, but
All right.
I have a question. Yeah. It seems that why are our Christians so anxious to be subservient? They their prayers are all about doing God's will and
Yeah.
basically being a slave to God.
Yeah.
It's just kind of weird.
Russell, do you have a view on this? What is it all about? Why is being somebody else's minion so important to them?
I don't know what they'd say. I think in a broader sense, telling people or getting people used to the idea that they should do whatever the guy in the frock says is advantageous to the religion, whether it's
Right,
conscious or not. Like some people
ultimately this is all coming from authority figures,
Right.
Who have either wrote these words in the first place or are taking advantage of these words,
Yeah.
and getting
They
people
encourage it in the followers.
getting people into their church and their flock to do what they say is their whole little power
the
trip.
thing.
I'll add that I think another element, or why it's so easy to spin this thing and it works, and they get people to come in and fill up the pews, right? Is because there is a sense in which if somebody else tells me to do it, then I've got I've either got justification or plausible deniability for my responsibility for what I've done.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just like the concentration camp guard who says, I was just doing my job.
Hey, man, that psychologist told me to shock this guy. I
Right. It's
have to.
It's a kind of justification. It removes moral culpability from the person doing the thing, because in the positive sense they can say, but I was doing his will, and everybody knows he's big and powerful, so it must be right.
and everything he wants is defined to be good.
Right.
so-
And you can't blame me
Or
because
in
I'm
the-
doing. He's the authority.
Or in the
figure.
negative sense of, yeah, I did that, but I was told to do it, so you can't yell at me.
Right.
I was doing what that guy said, including stopping you from getting to that guy and strangling him for what he told me to do.
Right. So yeah, it's
I said strangling. Let me
It's like-
broaden
it's a
that
dodge.
to holding the authority figure
Yeah.
accountable. These guys are acting as a screen to protect the authority figure from
Right.
being subject to backlash by being in the front ranks.
it's like they're it's
So-
like they're hiding behind each other. I mean, it's
Behind
like
each other?
they hide behind the authority
Well,
figure to
there's that,
justify
too.
their actions, and then the authority figure hides behind them because to protect their authority figure, so they can do whatever they want.
That's a damn good point too.
Yeah.
And I would just want to go back to the first few words you said about this, which is that they're using each other for support, right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing about having a central authority figure given all the instructions, is then all the minions can point to each other and say, well, he's doing it and he's doing it and he's doing it, right?
Right.
So there's a whole mass of us. It's a big group thing
Yeah.
going on.
Man, if somebody could contact dove.org and maybe get them to review this show, I think they'd find a lot to
I think they
dislike
do
about it.
movies. We're not a movie, are we?
Yeah.
We could be, though, at some point. There could be a
Need more
nonprofit
drama, but yeah.
nonprofit's movie. Who will we get
I
to
need
play?
an antagonist.
All right. Well, thank you for your question, Dennis.
Yeah.
That was a good one. All right. Thanks, everyone. And Dennis, take us out.
All right. Well, pursuant to our communications of 6/21/17, God has instructed us to proceed with the smiting in 2 weeks on the 5th of July. He assures you that not even I Am the Satellite by Brian Steeksma will save you.
Hey there, brother, don't you know the guy upstairs left us years ago? So there ain't no fake except the one you made.